Hello, it is Tuesday, January 6th, 2023 at 3:55 p.m. Eastern Time, USA, 15:55. I'm Mitch Mellor. This is my video journal, and this is it. It might be a little long. Zelda's coming up to join in. This is the last video journal from this computer for several weeks. I will be traveling to Europe June 10th through the 20th. This is the only time I have. I'm going to be with Hillary the rest of the time. So today a Ukrainian water dam was blown up. Explosives were placed on it or around it, and it was exploded late last night. So I don't want to get into the politics of strategic military strikes. Both sides are claiming the other side did it. My main concern is Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant uses the reservoir created by that dam to cool its reactors. As far as I know, that power plant has been powered down, so hopefully it does not require the amount of water that it previously required in order to stay stable. Right? That's our main goal, is to keep all nuclear reactors on the planet Earth stable. I believe that's a prime directive of the supercomputers and AI, avoiding nuclear catastrophe at all costs. Whether that's monitoring nuclear arms or monitoring the nuclear reactors. So, while it's early in this video, I just want to walk through my expectations, what I hope happens while I'm in Europe. I hope that Operation Oligarch is approved so that we can work on ending the war between Russia and Ukraine and all wars and conflicts on the planet Earth. I am hoping that when I get to Basel, Switzerland, myself and my spouse are approached by a military, by a government, or by even a billionaire to travel overland to Thessaloniki, Greece, and board a yacht where we can form a team to build a technology company using some of the ideas that I've put out there, and reach out to intelligence agencies and militaries to provide experts on artificial intelligence and supercomputers and robot warfare, so that we can hold forums as we make our way out of the Mediterranean and up to Norway. We can hold forums at different ports, hosted and moderated by me, with some questions I have, other questions the experts want asked. And we can produce these forums and release them on the internet. They'll probably get as many views as a C-SPAN forum, but at least we're putting the information out there, right? So, I'm hoping that we're approached in Basel, Switzerland. I'm hoping that the EU militaries are willing to put forward the 2-year program I suggested for my spouse, Hillary Kohler, compensating her 250 euros a day or 280 euros a day, whatever I said, to auction off the art pieces I mentioned previously, the film art pieces. I'm hoping that, well, I don't really need to be compensated. I live on $13,000 a year, supplemented by my spouse's income. She helps support me food, water, clothing, and some fuel. It would be nice to feel independent as a person of significant intellect, to feel that I have an independence of my own compensation, that should I choose different paths with my life and relationships, I can afford to sustain myself, free from reliance on anybody else. That would be a nice feeling, but I'm just happy I paid off my student loans and I'm not in debt $50,000 like I started out in my 20s. Alright, so that's the expectation we're setting there. Now, I know that's probably not going to happen. Right? The powers that be want to hide behind their computers. They want to fight techno wars. They don't want to look their opponent in the eyes, say, I challenge you to a duel, and solve things human to human. They want to build robots. They want to build artificial intelligence. And they want to hide. They're cowards. The leadership are cowards. They're not the rightful leadership. And I said it, I know I'm trying to work with them, but I can't hold back that here we are, all these ideas, and no one's approached me to support me in any of these avenues that I put out. So I don't think it's going to happen, mainly because I will call truth to power every time, and when I'm face to face with someone that's of power, I'll figure out ways to criticize some of their decisions, and those types of people don't like to hear that type of criticism. So Operation Oligarch probably isn't going to happen as planned. So at the very least, here's my proposal. Right? You don't want to call my landline. You don't want to call my cell phone. You don't want to use my websites, the contact forms through that. Any contact with me you think will put you on a list to be monitored by the intelligence community and governments for supporting a anarcho-terrorist. I'm an anarcho-feminist author, underground artist, but I'm sure I'm labeled terrorist to some groups. Right, so you don't want to contact me in any way, even though I believe the supercomputers will say you had the bravery to contact me and investigate your bank accounts, your banking sector, and hopefully secure and protect your livelihood, or monitor your movements and try to keep you safe because you actually supported me by clicking on my podcast, by buying a book, clicking on the book link, so on and so forth. But here we go. Here's my proposal. I just installed a Honeywell brand ceiling fan in my bedroom on Sunday. Hillary's wanted a ceiling fan for years, and I knew it was going to be a big job because none of the overhead lighting in this house have an electrical box to mount a ceiling fan to. And further, it had gas lighting at one point, so a gas pipe stuck down through the ceiling that I had to cut off. It was a nightmare, but I got the fan up. It's not fully balanced. It uses a remote control. It has a modulator or whatever, a radio control component wired to it where you can remotely control the lights and the fan speed. So what I propose here is this. If I come back from Basel, Switzerland, which is probably going to happen, it'll definitely happen at some point. The question is, do I come back on the 19th? Or do I stay in Europe to pursue Operation Oligarch? I come back. Some of you are able to track my phone or my voice in this house and know the days I'm going to be home. Other days I'm going to be working on the campground out of this house. But when I'm at this house, if you turn the ceiling fan light on, right? Like I could say, turn my television on at midnight every night. Well, that's connected to the internet. It's a little bit more difficult. If you hack my ceiling fan and turn the light on at midnight, I will leave my phones. Probably have to take my wife's Volkswagen, which does have a satellite radio receiver in it and a modern radio. But anything in my pockets that I could be tracked, my cell phone, so on and so forth, I'll leave at my house, and I will meet you at mile marker 70 in Ohiopyle, Pennsylvania at noon the following day. So you turn the light on at midnight. I gotta wait for my spouse to go to work because I can't leave at midnight and go down and meet you. She'll wonder where I'm going in the middle of the night and that I'm schizophrenic. But I will leave at 10 or around 10 and meet you at mile marker 70 at noon the following day. Now you could leave your track devices there at your hotel room in Washington, D.C. or wherever, and we can chat without devices, right? Even if I drive my spouse's car, I'm going to walk 1.5 miles, 2 miles to mile marker 70 without any devices that have microphones that can be listened to. Now, there's danger with this. Obviously, I could be kidnapped. But I think I've challenged every assassin on the planet to a non-lethal pistol duel or to a lethal pistol duel. So at least I'll have a fighting chance instead of being poisoned, strangled, or otherwise eliminated using whatever traditional means that have been deemed okay up until this point. Alright, so that's the Honeywell fan. The other thing I'll say, as I'm taking my smartphones, I said this is spy equipment. I understand that. The international community does not understand that. I will only be connected to the Wi-Fi on the ship and in the hotel possibly. I apologize for any viruses that might have been uploaded to them that could affect the communication systems of Europe. They're out of my control. I did not maliciously program anything on any of my devices. I simply connect them to Wi-Fi. I do the updates, and whatever's on there is on there. I will also be taking my Canon digital camera. It would be interesting to know if when I take pictures with this digital camera, if it's instantly uploaded to the Wi-Fi without my knowledge, right? I had concerns about this, is why I used film equipment, 35mm film, so that I have a feeling that all modern cameras can be spied upon, which would make it very difficult for journalists to sneak sensitive information out of the country. But you know me, I want to work with the existing leadership. I don't think we need to put journalists in dangerous positions to inform on other governments. We can work in a very straightforward way, in a very controlled manner, to release media so that people become more informed, not radicalized against the government because of atrocities to the environment, so on and so forth, or radicalized against the United States government because these United States companies are doing the environmental damage and the other damage in those countries. It's how we present the information, and it's how it's not the most profitable way of presenting information, which is why I've argued my media arguments in the past. Alright, new on the BBC NewsHour and on the NPR news that I've been listening to now that I drive to work at the embroidery shop. Last day for that today. This is made, so apparently they've developed a way to project solar energy from space. And listening to the tail end of this interview, it sounds like they convert it to microwave energy and it's concentrated on certain parts of the planet. This is exactly what I argued with the Society of Billionaires, what they're doing developing this technology. It could have been developed 10 years ago, right? If we're just hearing about it in the mainstream now, it was probably developed 10 years ago. Concentrating a beam of microwaves to produce energy on the surface of the Earth. Who is regulating this? Who is okaying these satellites to be sent up? Even if it's only allowed to be pointed at specific sensor and specific sites, what if someone accidentally walks into that site? Does their brain get inundated with microwaves? Are there long-term side effects? These are the questions that we could bring about in forums all throughout Europe. So that technology sprung up on a news thing. Thought that was interesting to bring up. I've argued that happened on my house. Could be happening to me everywhere I go. Concentrated microwaves, which is why I have interesting, new, and innovative ideas. Which might be a reason why nobody wants to be around me or meet with me, but I didn't send the satellites up. I would take them all down if I had a choice, which is why I'm neutral, and even countries like North Korea that are developing rocket technology and are trying to send spy satellites up into space, I don't see them as an extreme threat, because they could have the rocket technology to go up and extract satellites out of space. And it might take radical thinkers that are against the mainstream, that have the access to that technology, to go steal people's satellites and say that was stupid that you put that microwave ray up in the space and it flew over our country, so we sent a rocket up and got it the hell out of there. Because I know the Space Force isn't doing that, right? Is the Space Force like willing to just smash satellites into each other? Probably not. It'll create a debris field, and then our communication satellites and our top secret military satellites won't be able to fly around as freely, right? So, does the Space Force own a rocket that can go up and take satellites out of the sky? Maybe they do. Alright, the other thing coming up is brain implants. NVIDIA, or no, that's the chip maker. I think it's an Elon Musk sponsored or created company, got the FDA approval to test neuro implants in people's brains. Now, I'm not against this necessarily, right? I'm disabled, and there are people who are nonverbal, stuck in wheelchairs, that want to communicate, that are trapped in their own personal prison for all we know, that these connections in the brain could allow them to communicate their thoughts and their needs, right? There's possibilities with people who are paralyzed spinally from the waist down, that these implants could allow them to walk again, to move their arms. So I'm not against the technology. It's the structure of the technology companies. There's only 3. Of the pharmaceutical companies, there's only 5 that are going to make these medical devices, and how they're linked up. Now, I've suggested ways that we can change this. We can take down the pharmaceutical industry, reconstruct it so that it's focused on individual universities. If you have 100 different individual universities making these neuro implants, then they're going to be less hackable by one technology company, by one system, right? So I'm not against these neuro implants, but if it's a billionaire building them in the structured society we have now, I think it's dangerous. I don't think our society is ready for it. We need to inform society of the dangers of this. And if you're not going to look at the root cause, right? Like they're talking about pulses of electricity shoring up memories in the brain during a sleep period, and how they tested this to help with Alzheimer's. But if the cause of Alzheimer's is wireless waves, you're not getting at the root causes. You're just turning people into cyborg robots because you can, basically, because people want the newest thing. And you're not doing the studies. The FCC is not doing the studies. Nobody's doing the studies to get to the root causes of things. That's where I've proposed these studies publicly. Like CausePause. What's the root cause of some cancers? Could be our food, but we're not looking into that. What's the root cause of some mental illness, of autism, of these things? Could it be wireless waves? We're not doing the studies. And our system's so corrupt that we're never going to do the studies. We're just going to build implants to try to fix it. It's insanity. I'm not crazy. I'm not insane. This society is insane in a lot of ways. Right? So you're not getting at the root causes. You're not studying them thoroughly enough, putting enough money into it before you just progress into neuro implants and brain implants. Right? Here's a way to express this, because so many people don't want to believe that wireless waves are dangerous, unhealthy, cancer causing. They're so addicted, right? But just look at what they've done. People have smartphones now. They are surfing the internet and text messaging while they drive. This was not possible 20, 30 years ago. They're distracted, and there are more distracted driving accidents now than 20 years ago, for sure. I don't have the statistics, but it's got to be true. How many of those accidents cause somebody to become paralyzed from the waist down? How many of these vehicle accidents have caused disabilities? Right? So you want to fix disabilities, but you don't want to address the root causes of the disabilities. And they're going to put us up as a big banner. Look at the technology that we can fix this, and we can fix that, and we can fix this. But we might have never had these disabilities if it wasn't for your out-of-control, insane technology. Your addiction to wireless waves. You won't even field one city like Pittsburgh to be completely without wireless waves, so that we can see and compare a population with the rest of the Earth's population. the last thing I'll talk about, I know it's getting long. We had an issue with the campground. These people booked a $2,000 stay in the cottage last September 2022 before I was involved with the business. Some money was spent. Obviously, we had a burst pipe at the cottage. And now they've canceled their reservation. They want a full refund. And I'm not going to say Ken's not a good businessman. He just doesn't have the information he needs yet to be there. Right? So he partnered with Nick Nahay last year. And Nick designed the website, put the booking system in effect, mapped out every campsite with his graphic design degree. I just worry that Nick has taken advantage of Ken and Beth to certain degrees because he charged $1,000 a month plus 10% of all bookings. And to address this issue with the refund, I don't want to say, Ken, you can't spend all this money, but I compiled a report, which I'm going to compile monthly, on how much money the campground took in, $1,877. Nick's 10%, which is $187, so he knows how much he has. My 25%, and how much goes to the owners. And I just said, anything over $1,877 is future bookings that could cancel at any time and we have to refund it. Right? So I informed both owners because I am a businessman. I've had businesses. I'm trying to help them. But it doesn't seem like Nick gave them a monthly report on what the campground was taking in. Maybe that's because it wasn't taking in the $1,000 a month that he was charging them. I don't know what the thought process was about that. Furthermore, I'm not sure that they've ever got a detailed bill from him for his web design services, the domain name registration costs, the hosting costs. Maybe they have for their taxes last year. I'm sure he drew them up some kind of bill. But I don't see how you can take 10% and not develop a bill every month to say, here's my 10% this month. Maybe he did. He seemed to like my report. I don't want to think that someone that grew up around Utica is taking advantage of business owners. But, some of these technology people do take advantage of people. One case in point, my original killer painting website, I worked off a $3,000, $4,000 exterior paint job on this guy that worked in informatics down here in Lawrenceville. Him and his wife, she wrote the descriptions. They built me a website, cost me $3,000 in labor and materials. Now I can build a website for $180 a year. So, I don't want to say that all technology people take advantage of other people, but we're waiting for the artificial intelligence to get there to where we can design things ourselves, and it's getting there. So I'm excited about that. Not extremely excited about neuro implants. Sorry if I'm offending anyone with a disability. I just think we should be cautious. I know we've been cautious for the past 20 years going into this. It's just, you need to continue to have the forums. You need to continue to have neutral people like me say, here, these are some of the issues. Right? Is our technology sector completely driven by nonprofits like it should be, or is it entirely profit driven? Is our medical technology sector driven by profits? or nonprofit, hospital style and university style scenarios. Back to the campground. So some of you might not want to book through FrenchCreekFarms.com because Nick controls the bank account. We haven't been able to get a bank account in my name for the business because of a Form SS4 from the IRS that says this is your EIN number for French Creek Farms. We haven't been able to find that document. So Clarion County Bank has not been able to open an account for me to have control over, that we can connect the website to, so when the bookings come in, they come into that account. We pay Nick out the 10% for and his cost for the, so he has control over the bank account. We're not really, he's not being totally transparent about it. He's just cutting checks, and I don't know how it works. So you might not want to book right now until we get this squared away. But when I get back from Europe, if Operation Oligarch isn't a go, I'll be back to working on the campground. And what I am going to do, we are going to put the cottage on. We're going to try some weekends putting it on Airbnb, and that'll be in my name. I'll be the host. The money will go to my bank account, and then I'll write Ken a check for his business. Probably take some of that money that comes in as my payment. Also, there's a site called HipCamp where you can put campsites up. So I'm going to probably at least try to do one site along the water and maybe one site off of the water. Put it on HipCamp, block it off, and see if we can generate any people coming to the campground through that. So you can book through HipCamp. Again, that'll be in, I'll be hosting it. The money will go to my bank account, so we can book these and get some income flowing for these projects, for the solar panel project, the Butica project. I'm also going to take at least one campsite that's off of the water, that's in along the field, and I'm going to set up my equipment there. I'm going to stay there part-time. I'm going to try to rent that equipment, the tent, the cot, the air mattress, a camp stove, a canopy, a table, 2 chairs, to whoever. I'm going to put it up on Facebook. Anybody that wants to rent it for $50 a night, that'll include the campground fee and the equipment. I'm also going to use some of that money. I'm going to start a Facebook group for that site, and I'm going to take some of that money and buy a portable solar panel and some charging stations so that people can charge their phones and things off of solar power. So I'm going to buy some new equipment to add to it, and we're going to see if we can grow this so that all 4 of those sites that are off of the water can be equipped with tents and people can rent them by next year, hopefully. So I'm going to build this business with Ken. I'm going to do it either way. Even if I'm in Europe, I'll be checking in. I'll be paying my parents to work on the campground. But I'm not abandoning Ken's business. But if something comes around where we can end the war in Ukraine, and that is, Ken has a lot to do with that too. If we go county by county with county commissioners signing this peace treaty, I think we can start to work on a local basis on resolving some issues. So it's all incorporated. So that's where we're at. I'm not going to say I don't recommend booking through the campground with Nick in charge of things, but he can take back over if Operation Oligarch is a go, and we can figure out a way to work with him to see through the rest of the, and my parents, to see through the rest of the season. Alright, Plus we have the robot farm idea. I know that's probably not going to happen either, but we could sign a tentative lease agreement for next year, for this year, to develop the robot project. Alright, that's all I got. Again, if I'm on a yacht in the Mediterranean, I won't be contributing to this computer's video journal, but I'll have my laptop, which has Photo Booth, which compresses video to a similar degree. It's a newer version. So I can have a captain's log. I can add to these USBs that I have floating around. And again, this USB will be in the hotel in Amsterdam, at least for an hour or two. I'll probably pull it pretty quickly so I don't forget it for on the ship. It'll be in the TV in the hotel and then in the ship. So good luck downloading these files and distributing them accordingly. Hopefully we can get a lot of good ideas out to different governments who either want to work with me as a neutral party or want to develop these ideas on their own. A lot of this information, a lot of these ideas are for open development by different governments. You don't necessarily need my permission, and if you develop it, I might contact you, but it doesn't mean I'm going to sue you for intellectual property rights or anything like that, because this is supposed to be a private video journal, even though it might be distributed cautiously and carefully around the globe. Thanks for watching, and join me next time. Thanks.